Two years ago, Germany was hit by its worst recession in post-war history. Exports plunged and business investment plummeted. So how have the Germans managed to turn things around? That's one of our topics today on Made in Germany. Welcome to the show. I'm Ben Fazulin. Here's a look at what we've got in store for you. Waging on wheat. Spiralling food prices leap to two-year highs. Germany's recipe for success, from recession to robust role model. And a new gateway for research. The science world gets its own Facebook. The World Bank says global food prices have reached dangerous levels. The price of wheat has doubled in just 1 year, and other raw materials are also on the rise. In 2008, fears of grain shortages sent prices soaring and unleashed panic buying. But what's to blame this time round? Some say it's because of severe weather conditions. A lot of crops in Europe were destroyed last year, either by drought or by heavy rains. Let's have a look at what impact this is having on major grain producers here in Germany.
Another truck arrives at the mill, this time from Slovakia. A sample is taken from its load of wheat. On the whole, the Thüringer Mühlenwerker mill only buys its grain locally, but this year it's accepting deliveries from Slovakia, the Czech Republic and Poland. Dieter Mühlschlegel was forced to look further afield for supplies after last summer's heavy rains destroyed local crops. Laboratory tests show that the local wheat is no good for baking bread. We asked the mill owner if he'd ever experienced such a bad harvest in the past.
In my 20 years in the business, I can't recall such an extensive bad harvest with so little wheat suitable for baking.
In Germany, it was too wet, and in Russia, it was too hot. But the demand for wheat continues to rise. As a result, prices have doubled in the space of 12 months. But Mühlschlegel says the price hike is not just due to the fact that there's less to go around.
Well, I think speculation and speculators have a lot to do with it, because share prices shot up really quickly. And the only way to push share prices up that fast is with huge amounts of money, because at that time, mills were still perfectly able to meet demand.
But times change. When Mühlschlegel invested in his new mill 8 years ago, prices were stable and contracts were long-term. These days, the wheat industry is less predictable. Investors bet vast sums of money on rising or falling markets. And when supply is low, the market becomes a particularly fertile ground for speculators.
It really distorts the markets. It can either go up really quickly or suddenly plummet. And that's the difficulty we're facing. We can't assess anything properly anymore. Nothing is familiar, nothing is foreseeable. Not even those with experience can evaluate the market, because speculators in the world of finance are unpredictable.
At the moment, food in Germany is still cheap. Supermarkets sell a kilogram packet of flour for 25 cents. But such prices are the products of old contracts, and Mühlschlegel can no longer afford to sell for so little. He thinks comestibles are about to get more expensive.
Price increases are part of all new negotiations. Grain is not only used to make flour and bread, but it's also the raw material for the animal feed industry. So animals being reared for meat will become more expensive, milk will become more expensive. Grain is the basic material for so many things.
On average, Germans only spend 10% of their income on food. For people in poorer countries where incomes are lower, the food is comparatively expensive. Muschlegel thinks the demand for grain will continue to grow.
We have to live with the fact that we need 2.5 kilos of grain for 1 kilo of chicken meat. For pork, we need 4 kilos, and for beef, 7. It's going to be a big issue. If every person in China were to eat just one more chicken a year, we would need that much more grain.
And even if that doesn't happen, grain is still a firm favorite with consumers and speculators alike.
Well, it doesn't sound like things are going to change anytime soon. Let's see if our guest can give us some reason for hope. Thomas Straubhaber, the director of the Hamburg Institute of International Economics. How big a role do speculators actually play?
Actually, they play a very important role because, of course, their demand or their behavior on the stock markets and raw material markets will have influence on the price development. But on the other hand, their role is also positive because they give signals to everybody playing on the market, meaning that they also avoid waste or they give a signal to increase the production, for example. So they have two roles to play.
As far as the negative part of that goes, what can producers do?
It's difficult to do something on the short run because it's an agricultural product and it takes time to produce it. So for the short term, there is not much to do. In the longer run, probably they could increase efficiency. They could take other seeds or they could increase artificial behavior to help plants or seeds to grow. So in the long run, there is something to do. In the short run, we have to live with these price variations.
Well, is it fair, though, to hedge bets on the necessities of life, I suppose you could say?
I wouldn't say so. I would say that it is something that that's the economy, basically, that should determine the price, and you could not influence too much with political regulations or with other law regulations the influence on prices.
Some experts have called for greater investment in agriculture from the public and private sector. Could that help?
Absolutely. In the long run, I think we have a growing population. We have more needs for food worldwide in the next decades. So I think there is no way to avoid or to go against higher production. So all investments in agricultural business is a good investment to reduce this price volatility.
OK, we'll come back to you in a minute. First of all, let's see how the situation is affecting you. Here's our question of the week. Has food become more expensive for you? Go to our website, dw-world.de/English/Made in Germany, or one word. Fill in the questionnaire and you'll automatically qualify for our monthly draw. We look forward to hearing from you. Not forgetting what you can win, of course. This is the prize, the DVD German Family Business. Now, last week we were talking about making money from rubbish, and we asked if you use recycling bins for your household trash. Well, Rohan Gonzalez from Mumbai wrote in saying they separate their waste, turning the biodegradable stuff into fertilizer for the garden. There's a recipe for success. I've just got to get myself a garden first of all, though. Thanks for writing in. Now, talking about success stories, the IFO Institute released its monthly survey of business confidence amongst German firms this week, and the index has hit another record high, increasing for the 9th time in a row. The president of the think tank describes the upswing in Europe's largest economy as robust. He says it's not just exports that are powering ahead, but business investment too. Germany's benefiting from the European Central Bank's loose monetary policy at the moment and strong global economic activity. It's a win-win situation for German businesses. But how did they manage to turn things round? We talked to someone who knows all about cooking up a recipe for success.
Head chef Andreas Kündgen uses only the finest ingredients in his kitchen. That way, his dishes satisfy even the most demanding of customers.
The basic ingredients must be of the highest quality so that the end product will meet my high expectations.
What works in the kitchen ought to work for the economy. His recipe for success starts with the right products. German-made goods have helped pull the country out of crisis. Orders for machines and equipment are up dramatically. And German cars continue to attract buyers, especially from countries with rapidly growing economies like China. But Germany's booming exports are giving some of its neighbors indigestion.
As far as competitiveness in the Eurozone goes, we must bring things into line. We must do something about the great disparities between those at the top and those at the very bottom.
But having the right products alone isn't enough, says our chef. You need to make the right choices, too, to make sure your economy doesn't overheat. During the economic crisis, German companies tightened their belts and expected their employees to do the same.
It clearly won't work without a substantial contribution from the employees.
Germans accepted this unpalatable dish. Over the last decade, their wages have risen only slightly. Even during the economic upturn, salary demands remain modest, unlike those of their French neighbors, who take to the streets to demand better pay. In contrast, Germans prefer to avoid open conflict with their bosses.
For me, it's more important to have a secure job because I have a child. It's important to have a regular income, even if it's a bit lower.
Everything can change. You're not nailed down to the salary or wage levels you earned in the beginning.
What else is part of Germany's success? The right tools. Andreas Kündgen always keeps his at hand.
I use tools of the trade every day, like knives. It's vital to buy high-quality implements, not just run-of-the-mill ones, because I will use them every day.
The tool which helped German economy recover came from the federal government. It paid 8 billion euros in subsidies for short-time work. This enabled firms to keep their employees on during hard times rather than laying them off. As a result, fewer jobs than expected were lost during the crisis. Instead, unemployment has sunk to a historical low.
When, after 5 years, unemployment numbers are below 3 million, then we can be proud of our politics. It's something for the people.
People who, in turn, are willing to spend more. A good mood and higher consuming. A recipe for success that clearly suits German tastes.
Back to our economist now, Thomas Straubhaar. Do you think other European countries can use this recipe for their own success?
Not in the short run, because I think most of these ingredients have a past dependency. They have been developed over years, over decades, over generations, like the economic structure of Germany, meaning that there are a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises. There are a lot of family-owned businesses. There is this technology-driven mentality in the German behavior. So I think all these ingredients are not transferable in an easy and short-term way.
OK, well, let's have a look at some of the figures, the German growth figures in comparison to France and the Eurozone as a whole. You can see that there was a peak in 2008, first of all, and then the effects of the financial crisis, of course. Germany's economy was actually hit harder than France's and others in the Eurozone. But strict austerity measures have certainly got things back on track for Germany. Now, with the big gains we're seeing now simply a result of that big fall we saw in the graph?
Yes, of course. The decline and the recession in Germany were so fast and so deep that now the catch-up and the recovery are also fast and, of course, stronger than in France or in other European countries.
So how long can the economy continue to motor along?
I think this growth path will be sustainable for quite a while, for another decade or so, because the long-term trends behind this growth are still going on, meaning that we are still living for a decade or more in a growing population worldwide, with people that have more needs for basic goods, for infrastructure goods, for investments of all kinds. So these factors will have a positive impact for quite a longer time for the German economy.
So not just another climax or another peak that we're seeing?
Definitely not. I'm very optimistic that all these factors will last for quite a while. The German economy has done a good job in the last decade, and they will do a good job in the next decade.
Good job, Thomas Schalpaar. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Now, my job's been made a heap easier with a little amazing research tool called the internet. But imagine not having it these days. Well, in some professions, the information you need just isn't on the web. That was the case for virologist Iyad Madish. During his work as a scientist, he discovered that there wasn't an internet site that actually catered to his needs. So he did what a clever scientist might do. He created one. It's called ResearchGate. We met up with the entrepreneur to hear more about his project and what keeps him motivated.
Iyad Madish starts his day with an early kickboxing session. Pure discipline or aggression?
I can let it out here. My trainer helps me to get away from everything for an hour, get rid of all my excess energy.
Iyad looks like a man who gets what he wants.
Norway, Bergen, right? Yeah. So when did you start? Last week, right? Okay. So welcome.
His team consists of 40 people from 12 countries.
The latest will be in 2 months. Then we will hit the 1 million users. Yeah. We're going very
Iyad's
fast.
Berlin-based startup ResearchGate is growing steadily. The team has just moved into new premises, which already feel too small. He's always keeping an eye out for promising new recruits. ResearchGate is a social networking platform for scientists, a bit like Facebook, without the advertising. Iyad has encountered a lot of skepticism, even from his own family. Not everyone believed his project would work. But today, the 30-year-old is running a successful company. ResearchGate enables scientists to share research, create communities, find jobs, publish, and collaborate, what's called crowdsourcing.
I believe that as a communication platform for scientists, ResearchGate has the potential to make information flow more efficiently, and that could completely revolutionize the world of science. I actually believe that for this reason, ResearchGate might one day win a Nobel Prize.
Pretty confident.
You bet.
Iyad was originally a scientist himself. These days, he still follows what's going on at institutes like the German Cancer Research Center. He had studied medicine and IT and looked all set for a meteoric academic career. His own experience as a researcher gave him the idea for ResearchGate. He realized how useful it would be if he were connected online to a broad network of other scientists from all over the world. He'd like to see more of his former colleagues who were based in the US.
Sometimes I feel something is missing. I miss working in the field and seeing the ideas that I developed with friends and colleagues 4 years ago in Boston put into practice. That's always good to see.
Iyad financed his startup with the help of a venture capitalist from Silicon Valley. He and his 2 co-founders attracted major investors who put up millions. The company is based in Berlin because of the research being done here.
There's also a very lively startup scene here in Berlin. Many new companies have done very well, and we're the first German startup with backing from Silicon Valley. And that gives us a special status.
The investors are hoping to see a return soon, and the mounting pressure might get to some, but Iyad Madish is made of sterner stuff.
A man on a mission there. Well, the show's full of success stories today, so here's another one. Now, as far as business partners go for Germany, you might not immediately think of Armenia. The mountainous country is located in the Caucasus region in Eurasia, but the landlocked nation lacks the financial capital needed for economic development. For small businesses, getting a loan there means dealing with a mountain of bureaucracy. Some lenders, however, in Germany are helping change that. One of them is the Pro Credit Bank. You could call it sweet success for both sides.
These cream puffs sell like hotcakes in the Armenian capital, Yerevan, but the bakery owner won't divulge her recipe.
These are our eclairs. I will tell you this much. There's a lot of cream in them. We only make them in winter. In the summer, people prefer fruity things.
Sona Shaverdian took out a €50,000 loan to enlarge her bakery. Here they make traditional Armenian specialties. This one, which is filled with raisins and nuts, is called ragaliki. It's a perennial favorite in Armenia.
We started operating here in the 1990s. Back then, Armenia's economy was in bad shape. We were fighting for survival. My daughter and I started baking different cakes and tarts in our kitchen at home. When my husband and I lost our jobs, we made baked goods our business.
The bakery started out with 5 employees. Today, there are 70, most of them women. Family-run firms are the norm in Armenia. Here in Yerevan, many family businesses are eager to expand, but most can't afford to. Half of all Armenians live below the poverty line. The Pro Credit Bank is trying to make funds available. It hopes to boost the Armenian economy by offering microcredits to small businesses. German Executive Director Bertold Herzfeld helped establish the bank. He's familiar with the Caucasus region and its people's mistrust of banks.
I wouldn't say the situation in Armenia is unusual. When I compare it to what I experienced in Kazakhstan or Russia, things here are much the same. Clients try to keep the flow of information to a bare minimum. As a bank, we have to build up a relationship of trust and enter into a partnership with our clients.
This partnership has been a fruitful one for Sona Shaverdian. With the loan from Herzfeld's bank, she was able to buy new ovens for her bakery.
We bought these with the bank loan. Our old ones were quite old, and smaller too. Here you can bake 8 layers at one time.
The family still lives right over the bakery. Sona's son Edward, his wife, their son, and many other relatives all rely on the small business. The whole family is still involved in the decision-making process. Edward, the business manager, works in the office next door. He's happy to do business with the Pro Credit Bank as he finds the Armenian ones are too bureaucratic.
The Pro Credit Bank was attractive because they made decisions quickly. There were no obstacles, as there had been with Armenian banks we'd dealt with before. Time was of the essence, so it was vital that the bank gave us the loan quickly without hassle.
The family continues to give the bank more business. A 45-minute drive away is their latest venture, also funded by a loan from Pro Credit.
We bought this piece of land 2 years ago. We tore down the old building, and now we're putting up a new one. It's coming along.
It's a pig farm in the making. Edward Gazargan says Armenia needs investment and jobs, so he's creating some himself. The businessman has already hired his first workers and is bound to need more.
And be sure to tune in again next week when we take a closer look at the advances being made when it comes to online banking. Ismet Koyon is a pioneer in the IT sector. He's been developing software that not only simplifies methods of internet banking, but makes it more secure. His customer base stretches right across Europe, including Germany and France, and now he's looking to expand into his home country, Turkey. Tune in for that next time. For now, that's all we've got time for. Thanks for joining us here on Made in Germany. See you again soon.